Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for tuning in. Uh, just 1 second. Yes, as I was saying, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us in the world. Thank you so much for tuning in to this live show. I'd like to ask those of you that have already joined to begin by sharing the video. Please go ahead, share it, invite others who are also online and some of your friends. Let them join. This is a very, very, very important show. I'm going to provide an analysis of the situation that has been going on. Take you 1 second. Uh, I'm going to provide an analysis of the situation that is going on, and I'll ask you, all of you, to share the video. Uh, then please turn off that light when you are up. That one in the hallway. Yeah. Yes. So I'd like all of you to share this video and to make sure that a lot of people are joining. This situation is very delicate, as all of you know. Many of us have been concerned over the last several days and week about all these rumors of coup that have been happening in Juba, the massive deployment of tanks and military hardware in the capital. And the next day, we were expecting our government to come out and tell the people of South Sudan exactly what is going on. But instead of doing that, being transparent and sharing with the people of South Sudan why their night was disturbed and why the people were made afraid by the security forces that are supposed to protect them, what we end up hearing from the spokesperson of the military, Major General Lul Ruai Kong, was to argue that there was no coup and that those who were spreading the rumors of coup were enemies of the people and enemies of the peace. So it makes us wonder why then are people arrested on the accusation of the coup if the military spokesperson was arguing that there was no coup. Second, we heard from the spokesperson of the police. He never disappoints, always come in with this issue. And he also argued that there was no such a thing as coup. And the whole allegation was that there were some operations that were being conducted against Toronto boys and all these kind of things. So we never heard what is happening. Yet people are being detained. Many are being detained, and has become such a thing like a rumor. It's difficult really to find out what is going on, what is happening, practically speaking, in South Sudan. So it's because of that that I have taken the time to do the research, speak to a number of my contacts within the government, particularly within the national security, within the office of the president, to find out what is really going on. Because if the government is not sharing information with our people and telling them what is really happening, then it becomes our obligation to do that. So this is the reason why we are here today. We are here today specifically to talk about the arrest of my friend and a colleague in the Red Army, Major General Christo Thon Magoordit. I'm going to share a little bit about him so that people really understand the context surrounding him, who is he as a person, and judge for themselves if this man is capable of what he is accused of. First of all, Christo, as I said before, was a member of the Red Army. He's one of the people who joined the SPLA as a very young boy. He joined as a teenager, maybe 13, 14 years old. He joined in 1985 as part of the Mormor Battalion, but because he was too young, he was not immediately deployed. So he became part of the Red Army. And after completing his training, he was then taken to Cuba as part of the Red Army that were taken to Cuba to go and study education and learn military science so that they can come back and apply that knowledge in the struggle for South Sudan. So he went there, he stayed there, and then he returned. In fact, he returned. A lot of people never return. This is what people don't understand. Christo returned from Cuba back to South Sudan, went to the front line, until he was he was wounded. This is someone that has shed blood for this country to be free. He was wounded, and then after he was wounded, as he was recovering, he got an opportunity to go to the United States as part of the resettlement program that were happening in the 1990s. So Christo took advantage of this. He came to the United States, and despite all the difficulties that he's faced in his life, he excelled in the United States, became American citizen. This is another issue we are going to talk later on. He was naturalized US citizen. In fact, he lived here in Washington, D.C., became an accountant, is someone who worked very diligently, very well-known member of the community. Here in Washington, D.C., people still remember him, both in the South Sudanese community as well as across the entire society. In fact, the hotel where he used to work as an accountant is just here in downtown Washington, D.C. And then, while he was going on with his life here in the United States, elements within South Sudanese government came and asked him to return to South Sudan. This was after CPA was signed, to return and to help in the implementation of the CPA process and the preparation for ultimate independence of South Sudan. Christo, being a man of duty, he never hesitated. He left his well-paying job, all the services that he was getting here in the United States, and then he returned to South Sudan. He was enlisted back into the armed forces, and then now he was transferred to the National Intelligence and Security Services in Sudan at the time. Those within the security service that know him know this guy. He worked very well. He was in Khartoum, working primarily for General Magoordit, who was the deputy director of the NIS around that time. So this is the background of Christo. So while he's in Majak, he rise through the rank, becoming a lieutenant colonel, then eventually a colonel, and then he was ultimately promoted to become a brigadier general. And at the time of independence, when the National Security Service was established, and General Kolkur was appointed as the DG, the Director General of the Internal Security Bureau of the NSS, Christo was appointed as the Director for Finance of the ISB. As all of you know, around the time of independence, I joined the government of South Sudan, the Office of the President, the National Security Service. I was advisor in the office of General Biar Ajak, who was the first Minister of National Security Service. I worked with General Biar until he was fired in July 2013, when the entire cabinet, including Vice President Riek Machar, was fired. So after Biar was fired, basically I became irrelevant and people were not paying attention to me. But before that, I worked very closely with Christo. After I was appointed as advisor for the minister, the first act that the minister did was to form a committee. This committee, the objective of it was to do analysis of the national security structures. As all of you remember, according to the Constitution of South Sudan, the two DGs of ISB and GIB are supposed to be appointed by the president only after recommendation by the Minister of National Security. But as you remember, that never happened. What happened at the time was that the president violated the Constitution and appointed the DGs before he appointed the minister. So when Jorowiya arrived, Akolkur has already been working for at least a month, and he has formed some structures around him, structures that didn't really make much sense. So the first order that the minister did was to review those structures and to come up with a much more sensible structures that aligned with public administration. And the committee was also tasked to draft the white paper on intelligence and national security. It was also tasked to draft the National Security Act. So I worked very closely in this committee. There was 15 people in the committee, 5 from GIB, 5 from ISB, and the 5 of us from the Office of the Minister. So I worked with him. And then, again, later on, the minister also started the process for the drafting of the national security policy and strategy of South Sudan. Again, I work with General Christo in this, and we travel around the country talking to our people, getting them to understand what is security and whom are we securing? Security of whom? Is it only the security of the president, security of the regime, security of the state? We end up talking about what we call human security, security of our citizen, that they must be protected. So I worked with Christo until July 2013, and after July 2013, now I was, I was fired, I realized that I was no longer learning anything or having any real influence within the national security, so I left, I resigned. But before that also, when I work in creating the Red Army Foundation, Christo, at the time, he was a brigadier general. He helped me a lot in the process. He will come to the meetings. He's someone that is so humble, despite his big rank. You will find him hanging out with very junior officers and younger people within the security service. That is the kind of the person he is. So that is Christo. And that is how I get to know this man. He's a man that I have known for more than a decade. You can argue that at probably about a decade and a half is how I have known Christo Thon. Now, what has happened? Well, all of you know what happened. You remember overnight there was a lot of deployment of tanks. All these heavy weapons were brought out, including weapons that launches cluster bombs all over Juba. And the whole night, people were worried about what is happening. Rumors were moving around that there is a coup that is going on. That's what happened. That's what happened initially. Now, there was a lot of suspicion. What had really happened? And if you recall, most of the deployment that happened that evening was by Tiger. This is the presidential guards. These were the people that deployed the most. And they deployed around national security. So when they find like 2 pickup trucks of the NSS, they will deploy 6 around them. And these accusations begin to emerge that somehow the National Security Service is plotting a coup. And it began to spread. Now, for those of you who don't know the structure of the National Security Service, it's important that we go through this. National security, as you know, has two branches, ISB and GIB. Let's not talk about GIB now. The focus really should be ISB. ISB is headed, as you all know, by General Kolkur, deputized by an appointee of SPLM-IO, Lieutenant General Yedak. Then after Yedak in the hierarchy is Luis Natali. Now, after Luis Natali is supposed to be in charge generally of administration, of broader administration and finance, but it's really a way of keeping the whole structure. Christo, for the last 12 years that he has been in the NSS, he has been deployed in finance, right? This is not someone that has been deployed in operations or anywhere where he has commanded forces, fighting forces. That has never happened. So he has been deployed in finance. That is the job that he has been doing. Now, anyone that knows the NSS, forces, like in terms of fighting troops, vehicles, those big weapons that you see from the national security, those weapons are controlled under Operation Division. Operation Division, as many of you know, is commanded by Major General Ajak. That is the guy with power. And he reports directly to the DG. There is nowhere here where Christo comes in. Now, operation is where the forces are. Those of you in Juba, you know that on the riverside, that is the main headquarters of the operation, the NSS facility by the riverside. And then, you know also, under the operation department, there is what is called the special mobile forces. These forces, some of you who are familiar with the national security, used to be commanded by Malwal Army. And then during the height of the unknown gunmen situation in Juba, where NSS was just basically executing people and them committing crimes on regional dignitaries that were visiting South Sudan, there was a case in particular where a team of IGAD led by a colonel from Kenya, and and there was a lieutenant colonel from Sudan and a major from Ethiopia. They were basically detained in Luri, beaten by security forces, and robbed. So after that incident became public, Malwal army was arrested. But what happened with the force, there was a new commander that was appointed to lead it. That commander is a central gentleman, is a brigadier general called Deng Kwaj. He's from Awil. So he's the one heading that force. It's quite a large force. And under it, there is what is called the special forces, who are basically a different group. They were headed by Angelo Quadgrang until he had his issues, and I think now the person heading it is Deng Chagai. Deng Chagai, for those of you who knows him, he is a son-in-law of the president. So he's the guy that is heading these special forces. These are the fighting forces in the NSS. Now beyond that, NSS has this regional operational headquarters. These regional operational headquarters are in the three greater regions of South Sudan. The one for Barghazal is based in Wau. So Wau is the sort of the regional headquarters. If there are operations done there, this is where the forces are located. So whoever is the commander in Wau is usually a very powerful person within the NSS. He has ability to deploy troops, but not on his own, in consultation, both with the chief of the operation division, Ajak Quad, as well as with the DG, Akolkur. The one for Equatoria is based in Yei. That is the regional headquarters of the NSS operations, right? The one for Upper Nile is based in Paluch, in the oil field. So these are the individual, you will call them the military elites within the NSS with ability to deploy forces. Christo doesn't command anybody. He's somebody who is basically doing the budget of the NSS, paying soldiers, engaged in financial issues. He has nothing whatsoever to do with operations, right? That is the reality. And anybody from Juba or from NSS knows this, right? So to do a coup, what do you need? You need to command forces. You need forces that you can order. So if there is anyone that could do a coup from the NSS, it could be either one of the three commanders of the three regional headquarters in Yei, Paluch, and Wau, because they have some forces. But as I mentioned to you before, they can't deploy those forces on their own without approval of the operation chief. That brings us to the other person that can do the coup, the operation chief, Ajak Quad. He has the troops. You can just deploy them as you wish. He has the ability to command. And the third person that can do this is the DG, right? DG is the one that can order all the NSS officers to do whatever he tells them to do, and they will do it without any hesitation. There is no way here where someone who is in charge of finance will come and issue orders to soldiers who are part of the operation division. Anybody who knows how the military works knows that this is a complete nonsense, right? And the finance division of NSS is not one of those divisions with a lot of troops. The other division with a lot of troops with the NSS is petroleum. So if you can argue, if there is a petroleum division chief, maybe, because he has about 9,000 or so, give or take, deploy under him to protect the oil fields. But even the chief of the petroleum division cannot act without the approval of the operation chief, right? So that is the context. Now there is another relevant context that I must provide here. Deeper understanding of connection between Christo Thon and Akolkur. First of all, both Christo Thon and Akolkur are from Tony. Akolkur is from Tony North, from Atok. Christo Thon is from Luanjiang, okay? It's from Tony East, Luanjiang. That is first connection. Second is the connection by marriage. Christo has a brother called Major General Biar Magoordit. Many of you might have heard him. During the 32 state era, he was a governor of Tony. Biar Magoordit, he's one of the liberators. He fought in the struggle for the independence of South Sudan. And also, he became a major general in the police. And then after he was retired from the police, he was appointed governor. Now, He's an older brother to Christo. Matiang's daughter is called Atoch. This Atoch is one of the wives of Akolokur. Okay? Very important connection for you to remember. Wife of Akolokur, Atoch, is a niece of Major General Christo Thon Magoordit. Very important connection for our viewers to make and to note. And we will come back to it. Now, how did Christo get arrested? When this whole incident happened, troops are being deployed, people are running around in the street. Christo was not even in town. He was in Nairobi. He's doing another degree. He has many degrees already, but he's doing another degree in Nairobi. So he goes to Nairobi to go and take his classes, do his exams, and all those kind of things, as many of you know. He's not the only one. Many South Sudanese are doing the same. So Christo was in Nairobi. And then the accusations were going on here in Juba. What is happening? Who is being arrested? Who is being accused? Rumors are flying. Who is doing a coup? You know, this has been happening for weeks. And then Christo received a phone call from Nairobi. The phone call came from his boss, the DG, and also his niece-in-law, the husband of Atoch of niece. So Akolokur called Christo in Nairobi and told him, "You are needed in Juba urgently. Come to Juba urgently." Right? Your boss called you. You are needed in Juba urgently. He's also the husband of your niece. You have nothing to worry about. In fact, you know that if he tells you to come urgently into Juba, it means that everything is okay. Right? He cannot ask you. He's a relative. You know, he's a relative. For you to come to Juba and experience harm. Right? So trusting Akolokur, he got on the plane, came to Juba. When he came to Juba, he was told to proceed directly to the office at the Blue House. So he went there, came in, and then he was told that he is under arrest. Then some officers were asked to escort him to the Blue House. So he is now in Blue House. That is how his arrest happened. He's not someone that people go and look for him, capture him, and then brought him so that he's arrested. Right? He's someone that was in Nairobi. He was called that he's needed in Juba urgently. He got on the plane, came, then go to the office, only to be told that he's under arrest. He asked, under what suspicion? He's told, that is none of your business, just go to the prison. So that's what is happening. Now I began digging deeper. What exactly is going on? What is the sense of evidence that is going on? Apparently, a few weeks while he was in Juba before he traveled to Nairobi, Christo was intercepted on a phone talking to a confidant of his. And what he said was that President Salva Kiir has failed terribly in his leadership of South Sudan, and he should not run again in the next election if he loves this country. That is the statement, apparently, that he said this statement, and then you have these national security people listening to people, and that is the statement that was taken. And because he said that, and he's a national security officer, he's accused of orchestrating a coup. That's how we got ourselves to where we are today. I want to make a few things very clear. Very, very, very clear. I have already said what the structure of the national security is. Christo, as I said before, has only been deployed in finance and administration. He has never been in operations. He's never been commanding troops. Never. Right? So he has no ability to just basically ask soldiers, NSS soldiers or Tiger soldiers to go and do coup. That makes no sense. If he was in the operation division, he was actually commanding troops, then you can argue. But someone that has no ability to command forces, how can you do a coup? That is one. Number two, if he knew that he has done something that was suspicious while he was in Nairobi, he's a US citizen, he's someone who is mature, he has worked for many years. If he knew that he has done something that was suspicious, would he really have returned to Juba when he was called on the phone? By coming to Juba, we should all understand that this man has not whatsoever participated in any of the things that are being alleged by the state. There is no guilty person that will come to Juba, especially on the accusation of coup, because it's not like he was not aware of the rumors. When the rumors happened, everybody was aware. Anybody that follows South Sudan became aware of those rumors. For him to get on the plane to come to Juba, we should take it as an evidence of his innocence. Third, for the last 3 years, I would say, we have all been hearing so many rumors of coup. And these coups in particular, the rumors that we've been hearing about, have all concerned the National Security Service, particularly General Christo Thon Magoordit. When people always talk about coup for the last 3 years, all of you who have been following South Sudan are aware, right? Even with the PCCA saga, it was that the NSS is working with PCCA, right? Every time we hear Christo Thon Magoordit is planning this, Christo Thon Magoordit is planning that, Christo Thon Magoordit is planning that, right? So, how is it that is Christo Thon that is arrested when the rumors that we have been hearing for the last 3 years have concerned the DG? And DG is the one with the command. You know, he can remove whoever in the national security whenever he wishes, right? How does Christo Thon here become an issue? That is a real question mark. Real question mark. And even many of the audio that we had, there was one in Egyptian Arabic where there has been a coup. Those who were mentioned in that coup were Christo Thon Magoordit and Salva Kiir, the commander of Tiger Division. No Christo Thon, nobody. So where does Christo come here? How does he become an issue? I want to say, as someone who has been arrested by the National Security Service in South Sudan in the past, I can tell you with all certainty that these people, they don't follow evidence. You are arrested, right, based on some suspicion, or somebody just doesn't like you, or somebody who consider themselves to be your rival can arrest you. After you have been brought now into the Blue House, then now they will begin the investigation, which is a reverse. People are supposed to be investigated before they're arrested. You can't just arrest people on suspicion. There has to be an evidence, right? And then after you are arrested, you are kept there for many, many, many months, sometimes years, without being taken to court. And in my particular case, when I was eventually taken to court, it had nothing to do whatsoever with the accusation on which I was arrested in the first place. All of you remember, I ended up being taken to court over the riots that happened in the Blue House. But why was I arrested in the first place? I have no freaking idea up to today. And that was the same thing with my friend Carbino Walagok. Carbino was arrested the same way. You know, Gang, who is also happened to be a relative, went to his office, told Carbino, oh, the DG Akolkur would like to see you in his office. So whenever you get a chance, just stop by. So then Carbino went to DG, and then he's told that he's arrested. And he ended up spending almost a year in prison, more than a year in prison without being taken to court. When he was finally taken to court, he was taken with me over the riots in the Blue House. But why did he get to the Blue House in the first place? And these are just only simple examples. There are many people that end up meeting their death in Blue House. People like Luala Kon, you know, others that were executed and disappeared, permanently disappeared, like Dong Samuel, Agri Idris, they disappeared based on some accusation. We don't even know what it is up to today. Dead. This is why we cannot just accept that NSS has arrested people and let's sit back and watch the law play its course, because there is no law. There is no law in South Sudan. It's a man-eat-man jungle. There is no law. And everyone is competing to please our failed, corrupt dictator, Salva Kiir. That is what everybody is busy doing. No one is busy actually trying to find out the truth. So we cannot say, let the NSS do its work and then we will know. No, already the constitution of South Sudan has been violated. Christo has been in prison now for, 5 days. According to the constitution of South Sudan, someone has to be arraigned in court within 48 hours of detention. That has not happened. Why has it not happened? Because the NSS has no evidence. NSS has no evidence. It's either here, someone is trying to confuse us by bringing in this Christo element, which has nothing whatsoever to do with really suspicion of coup that we all hear about, or maybe he's being targeted. Otherwise, how do you explain? How do you explain that? How do you explain this situation? I want to make this very clear. Christo must be released. He should be released. It's kind of funny, really, watching what has been happening in the community of Tony. Akolakur has detained so many young people from that community. And when you look at them, many of those people are very promising people. People that has huge potential for South Sudan. Take an example of Karbino Walagog. Karbino Walagog was an entrepreneur, businessman. He was employing thousands of young men. And then all these rumors were cooked up. Ended up in jail. The guy was brutally tortured, abused, right? To the extent that we all know what happened. He's dead, executed, shot in the head. Carbino was a national asset. He's someone that could have taken our country to higher places. But he was destroyed. I don't even know for what reason up to today. Take a look at Woldeng Attack. Those of you who know Woldeng Attack, he's a young politician, he's a leader. He leads a political party. He's also from Tony. He was deputy head of a commission in South Sudan, member of parliament. The guy was brutally intimidated. People wanted to kill him, trying to execute him for whatever reason, until he had to flee. He had to run. Woldeng Attack today is in New Zealand as a refugee, forced to flee his own home. He's a son of Tony. He's someone who's a national asset. He has great ideas. He can do so many things to take this nation forward. Now, Christo Thon. Why is one person, by the way, this question I'm asking to the Tony community, why is one person being allowed to destroy the entire community? Right? What is a community? It's a younger generation. These are the future of the Tony community tomorrow. The same way in the past, there were people like More. I remember More very well because he was a great man. Those were the people that built people like Akolakur today. I remember when Akolakur was taken to his school in Addis Ababa, it was More that recommended him, right? Because he knows that the future is that you protect young people, you build them, you nurture them so that they grow, so that tomorrow they will be able to take the society forward. But what are we seeing here? Destruction of young people, destruction of the future. Is Akolakur Tony? Is he the only person who is Tony? that he can cook up any situation, have any of these younger people of Tony community disappeared, and everything is okay because a call is there. You see the entire society. People like my good friend, Kain Bill Known, someone who's just busy trying to pursue his own life, detained simply because he criticized a Kolokor. So many people. Then at a political level, he's fighting politicians. Someone like Nyal Deng now is completely irrelevant now in the South Sudanese politics because space has to be made for this guy. This is a concern. Christo is a national asset. And I think we cannot just say, let it wait for these investigations to happen. Where will they happen? And where will they go? I want our people to be serious. We have to be our brother's keeper. It could be, it was me yesterday. Today is Christo. Tomorrow, it will probably be you. And if I'm abused, I'm detained, you keep silent. Christo is detained, is abused, you keep silent. Tomorrow, when you are the one who is detained, and the others keep silent, what do you think will really happen to you? So, we need to speak up. We have been hearing of coups in South Sudan since 2005. In fact, the civil war in 2013, when it initially broke out, the propaganda that the government brought out was that Dr. Riek Machar has orchestrated a coup. It turned out later on to be false. We remember vividly, Pagana Mum, Bajanga God, Biar Ajak, Ezekiel Lolgat were taken to court on the accusation that they were the one spearheading the coup with Riek Machar. Turned out that there was no evidence, and the case was thrown out. Since then, there is no single case of a coup that has succeeded. Even when Kwelagwer, many of you remember, Kwelagwer was detained, subjected to hardship in prison. He almost died there. He got sick in prison. And then, after a year in court, what happened? No evidence. If there is anything that can replace the time that Kwelagwer has lost, there's nothing. So why do we allow the same thing to be repeated over and over and over again? Must everyone suffer? Might we say everyone must suffer before we stop the suffering? What are we going to get out of it? That we are resilient because we are used to suffering and that we can be abused at will? We have allowed this South Sudan where military officers, where people like Akoloku, like our president, can just abuse anyone. And it has become normal. I remember when Mahmoud was arrested in 2006, 2007. He was arrested for like 2 years, detained. Nobody even said a word. And then in the end, one day, president decided that he's going to end the detention, and Mahmoud is told, oh, now you are no longer detained, you can go back to your office. And that is okay. It has become like his appointment of people, his firing of people, everyone just said, thank you. It's as if it's God Almighty. When we say God gives and God takes, it becomes like Kiir. That is the dictatorship that has been established in our country. And we must dismantle this dictatorship. Coup cannot be used as a reason to continue to abuse people. Huh? And what is really bizarre here, as I said to you before, Akolokur and Christo are in-laws. How do you tell lies to your in-laws so that he can come to a situation where his life would be in jeopardy? What is that so important? To be a director general? To make money? To live so that you are not dead? Our Dinka society is based on honor. And that honor primarily within family and with relatives, especially relatives by marriage. Christo is like father-in-law to Akolakur. If Matiang Magoordit was not there today, it's Christo that will be responsible. How is it that this man could do this to his own father-in-law? But by the way, it's not surprising. After all, Carbino was his cousin. But he had no problem getting rid of him. So it has become like a dog-eat-dog society. Kiir Mayardit only believe you are loyal if you are able to betray anyone. Doesn't matter who the person is, even your own family members. You know, he expects you to be okay while he torture your relatives. I remember when I was in detention, I would joke to my father, "Oh, I would cut your son's head off." And my father is in the military with him. Huh? This is a man. No sense of humanity of any kind whatsoever. So now he's busy arresting people, part of a family, and he thinks he's in a good shape with the other part of the family. This is problematic. It cannot be allowed to continue. Since 2005, I can tell you there has been more than 100 accusations of coup, and not a single of them has been factual. Just rumors that are concocted. Our president no longer likes to hear the truth, so people go to him with lies, something that that he wants to hear. He's like a child. He doesn't want to hear the truth. He only wants to hear propaganda that makes him feel good. And of course, that is why the country is where it is. There is no surprise there. All I wanted to say here is that Christo, as someone who is in charge only of finance and administration, has no ability whatsoever to carry out a coup. He has no troops deployed under him. Christo was called on a phone call from Nairobi by Akolakur, and then he came to Juba. No one who is guilty or who remotely knows that he has been involved in something suspicious would have done that. By doing that, he showed that he is innocent. Finally, I hear that his family is being intimidated. His wife, apparently, she tried to visit him in prison, but he was told that she should not come, and that she must sit back and allow the process to play itself out. If Christo's wife or any of his family members is watching, I want to say this very clearly. You must speak for Christo. This notion that you have to be silent when the person is detained never works. You cannot beg the same person that is prosecuting your son to be the one that changes his heart and give him freedom. You must make the whole world aware that Christo has been arrested. It's the only way that he will get his freedom. Christo is an American citizen. So what needs to be done immediately? American government must be informed that the citizen has been arrested. American senators, the State Department, I'm personally going to inform some of these people that their son has been arrested. And everyone in South Sudan knows. So many people have been arrested of coup, and it never turned out that there was any real coup. They use it mostly to get money, because after they do the deployment, they are paid money. They can take the money because sometimes, the salaries are not coming on time and the inflation is getting out of control. It's all just about the money, become a circus. So this is usually about money. But there has never been any evidence of a real coup that has been planned. And believe me, when the real coup eventually comes, you will know that there was a real coup. It will not be this nonsense that we hear in Juba. And the only people that are capable of committing a real coup are those with ability to command forces, those who I mentioned before. But any other person that has no ability to command forces, let's find other things to accuse them, but not coup, because that doesn't make any sense. I want to tell our people We have to speak up. We cannot just allow ourselves to be run over by this dictatorship. We are resilient people. We are proud people. We cannot allow our brothers to be arrested all the time on flimsy accusation and be okay with that. No, we have to fight for them. We have to fight for every single person. Doesn't matter where they come from. People will say, why do you talk about Christo? He's from Tony, you are from Bor. It doesn't matter. He's a citizen of South Sudan. If he's arrested, I have a right to fight for his freedom. He's my friend. I know him. People will say, oh, he's national security. National security, don't you remember? They torture you and they detain you. Why are you fighting for a national security officer? Well, I have a lot of friends who are national security officers. And I know that institution, not everyone in there is a bad person. There are a lot of people there who are honest. A lot of people there who are courageous. A lot of people there who are true patriots. The problem with the national security is at the top. It's rotten in the head. But if we had to remove that head, you will see that this institution can deliver. Because there's a lot of young people in there, very, very, very intelligent, highly educated, people with humanity. But they are not being given chance. Because the top is rotten, they have only been empowering mujrimin, criminals, who have been terrorizing our people in Juba. So Christo is one of those good NSS officers. And NSS is a very important institution. It cannot be left to mujrimin. It cannot be left to criminals. It has to be led by upstanding citizens, people that are patriots, people that are willing to secure the whole country and every single citizen in it. And those people are people like Christo. So if we sit back and we watch those people destroyed, and it are mujrimin that are empowered, then we are contributing to the destruction of our country. So I have a right to speak up for Christo. I know what he's going through because I have been in that situation, and I have an obligation to speak up for anyone that has been wrongly detained in South Sudan. Finally, I want to pass a message to the members of the organized forces, our soldiers, our officers in the National Security Service, in the Presidential Guard, in the military, in the police. Your institutions are key components of what makes South Sudan a state. Our army, our intelligence services, our police, these are foundation of our society. Politicians will come and go, but our military will always be there. Our police will always be there. Our National Security Service will be there. Kiir Mayar will go. Other leaders will come, but those institutions will remain. Do not give your loyalty only to a person. Your loyalty is more important, is precious. Your loyalty is to our soil, our land, our beautiful country, our people. Is not to a particular dictator. When you only give your loyalty to the dictator, you are turning yourself into tools of suppression. You are being used to suppress your own people, people that you should be securing, people that you should be protecting. And in the process of doing that, you are making your life so cheap and worthless. Imagine since 2013, those who have been killed, wounded during this nonsense fight. What has happened to their families? Do you see anyone taking care of their families? Wounded heroes who have lost limbs. Some people who are traumatized in the mind. People who carry the wounds, visibly, the pains of this struggle. What have our society done for them? Those who are killed are removed from the payroll immediately. The families get nothing. Their children get nothing. Their children are now the ones that are homeless. Is this the system that you want to continue destroying your own people over? That is the system that you want to protect? A system that does not even respect you, that does not give you dignity, does not consider your life to be worthy. That is the system that you are going to protect? My people. Why do we reduce ourselves to this level? We are dignified people. We are honorable people. We have to put our country ahead. You see what is happening. You see the situation in Darfur, situation in Sudan. You see what is happening in Ethiopia. The whole region is going crazy. This is a time for us to prioritize our country. And President Kiir is already coming up with ways to run around elections. He's going around doing all kinds of nonsense. And his entire strategy is to use you, the members of security forces, to continue abusing our people. If indeed Major General Christo has said that Salva Kiir has failed in his leadership of South Sudan and he should not run, what is wrong with that? Because he's a military officer, he has no opinion? He has his opinion. The only thing he cannot do is to go into politics and to advocate publicly for a political candidate. But he has a right to express his opinion in private, to a confidant. And Constitution protects him. He gives him the right of privacy. So no one should be even listening to his conversation to begin with. That whole nonsense cannot be produced in court as an evidence because it was collected illegally without a warrant and it was never authorized by a judge. Never. So if he has said the president has failed, has he not failed? What is Okoloku disputing? Is he saying the president has not failed? Then what? Look around you in the country. Does it look like this country is being run well? That this country is progressing? This country has failed. Everybody knows that. And I'm glad that we have courageous members of the armed forces that are willing to admit the reality. In fact, we need more people like Major General Christo Thon that are willing to admit the truth that Kiir Mayardit has failed. Kiir has failed. It's a reality. Look at the corruption index. We are the most corrupt country in the world. In the world. And this world has Nigerians in it. How did we become even more corrupt than Nigerians? Kenyans? Huh? Ugandans? They are, now we rank because Bull and people around him are just selling away the country. So we have become the most corrupt country in the world. It's a sign of failure. Poverty rate. Look at the poverty. Poverty rate has gone from 50% at independence to now almost 90%. Is that a success? Huh? Or is that the success of Kidit? So we have to have two versions of success. Success of Kidit and a normal success. And the success of Kidit essentially is failure. Okay. Let's look at our debt. Oil has been sold in advance. You all know that, because it was disclosed to us by Minister Agak Achwilwal, another great man. He said the oil has been sold in advance. Huh? And then he sold the birds to Russia, including the eagle that represents our national sovereignty. Is being sold to Russian. They're now taking them to Russian zoos. Water is sold to Egypt. And the animals, if you go to Juba airport, the animals are being smuggled out. You know, the Emiratis are landing in Pibor. They're doing all kinds of issues there with Yao Yao. The gold is being sold in Kapoita between Kiir and Louis Lobong. Is that not a failure? Political freedoms. Political freedom. Freedom House ranks political freedom. The range is between 0 and 100. What do you think is the score of South Sudan? It's not even within the range. It's -2. It's on the negative side. Because nobody has a freedom in this country. That's not a failure. Intercommunal violence, right? Just this week, what is happening between Twitch Mayadit and Abiai community? Fighting. Nearly 70-something people have been killed now, just over the last few days. My own brother-in-law was killed last year in the same fight. Why are those communities fighting? These are communities that have been living together at peace since time God created them. They have intermarried, they love each other, they see themselves as one people. But now, they're killing each other. Here in Jongule, we have Murle always being armed by the national security to terrorize the Dinka Boer community and the Lao community and the Gawer community. We know this. Who is arming them? The government. The government is the one arming them, right? So that the communities can fight. We know what happened in Upper Nile. You know, President Kiir has been using Johnson Olony as his lackey to destabilize that place. We saw the fighting that happened between first the Ngok and the Dinka Padang and Chuluk, and then Chuluk and Nuer, turning the whole state into chaos. And Upper Nile was one of the most beautiful, most peaceful state where every single citizen, whether it was Dinka, Nuer, or Shuluk, they speak the same languages. They go to the same school. They're the same community. They're now destroyed. So this is what is happening. How should we call it? Should we call it a success? That Kiir has succeeded? Like the way that is, all these propagandists are telling him in his office? It's a failure, and he knows that. And although today he has become the chairman of the East African community, it's not Kiir as a person that has become the chairman. He did not get that because of anything related to him and who he is as a person. He got it because it is a chance for South Sudan. That seat is a seat for South Sudan because we are members of East African community. We are an important country in the region, and we deserve to lead. So even if we are headed by a failed, corrupt dotard in the person of President Kiir, it's our chance to lead. And I congratulate all the people of South Sudan for this milestone. But it has nothing whatsoever to do with President Kiir. So he is a failure. If Christo has actually said that, that is 100% correct. And I would encourage him to stand his ground. It can be proven in court that he's a failure. And is, by the way, what is funny here is not only Christo who is saying that Kiir Mayadit has failed. Everyone in Juba who is drinking tea under those trees is talking about how Salva Kiir has failed. Huh? Those guys who are drinking alcohol in the bars, in the nightclub, they all know that Salva Kiir has failed. Even the guys in Western Equatoria who are there, they know that Kiir has failed. Hmm? Everyone in the country knows that Kiir has failed and is talking about it. Every phone call that you hear about, this guy has failed. Alendit came out, Alena Yen, you remember, he came out and he said, Kiir has failed. Who doesn't know that he has failed? He has failed. Everybody knows. So a guy who has failed doesn't want to hear that he has failed, although he's being told that he has failed, and he has failed. So let me conclude by saying, Christo must be released. He doesn't deserve to be in jail. There's no reason for him to be in jail. And all of us as people of South Sudan must fight for his freedom. I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for joining this program. I'm grateful for your time, for listening. And again, I ask your help to circulate this video so that we can reach as many people as possible, so that people understand the truth. Christo is someone who works in finance. He has no ability to command forces. Christo was in Nairobi when all this nonsense was happening. He was called on the phone to come to Juba, and he did, because the person who called him was his boss and an in-law. Christo is a great man. There's no reason why he should be in jail. He should be released. So I ask all the people of South Sudan to join in fighting for the release of Christo. Release General Christo now. Release General Christo immediately. Thank you, and have a great